You've made a decision today that you think was yours. What to wear, what to say, who to text back, and who to leave on read. You felt in control. You felt like you were choosing. But what if I told you that nearly every decision you made today was shaped by forces you didn't see, couldn't name, and never agreed to? What if the freedom you feel is the most convincing illusion your brain has ever produced? And what if the people who understand this invisible game have been quietly winning at your expense your entire life? This isn't a conspiracy, it's psychology. And by the end of this, you'll never see the world the same way again. Let me start with something that happened to you recently. You just didn't notice it. You were scrolling online, maybe shopping, maybe reading headlines, and you saw two versions of essentially the same thing. One felt safe, one felt dangerous. One made you click, the other made you scroll past. But here's what's strange. They were both true. They contained the exact same information. The only thing that changed was how the information was wrapped. Here's what I mean. Imagine a doctor tells you a surgery has a 90% success rate. You feel relieved. You think, okay, those are good odds. Now imagine the same doctor, same surgery, same data, tells you there's a 10% chance of failure. Suddenly your chest tightens. Suddenly you want a second opinion. Suddenly you're not so sure. Nothing changed. The facts didn't move, but your feelings did, and your feelings are what drive your decisions. This is called framing, and it is one of the most powerful forces operating on your mind every single day. The words people choose, the order they present information, the way a story is told versus how it could have been told. All of it reshapes your perception of what is real. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. Whoever controls the frame controls the decision. That's why the news can take the same event and make you feel outraged or indifferent depending on which channel you watch. That's why a politician can take the same policy and make it sound like salvation or destruction depending on the audience. That's why someone in your life can describe a situation in a way that makes you feel guilty, even when you did nothing wrong. Truth matters, but how truth is packaged matters more, and most people never question the packaging. But framing is just the surface. There's a deeper game running underneath everything you do, and it's one you've been playing since childhood without ever being told the rules. It's called status. You think you want money. You think you want love. You think you want happiness. And maybe you do. But underneath all of those desires is something more primal, more constant, more relentless. Your brain is always tracking where you stand. Am I respected? Am I noticed? Am I above, below, or equal to the people around me? This is the invisible currency behind almost all human behavior. It's why a compliment from someone you admire can fuel you for a week. It's why being ignored by someone you care about can ruin your entire day. It's why you feel a strange sting when a friend succeeds at the thing you've been struggling with. Even though you love them, even though you're happy for them, something underneath that happiness burns. And that something is your brain recalculating your position. Status drives social anxiety. It fuels competition. It explains jealousy. And here's the uncomfortable part. It even drives kindness sometimes. Not all kindness, but some. Some acts of generosity are unconscious attempts to gain moral status, to be seen as the good one, the selfless one, the one who gives without needing anything back. And the proof is in how it feels when no one notices. If the kindness was purely selfless, invisibility wouldn't sting, but it does, because part of you was watching to see if anyone saw. This doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you a human one, but it's worth seeing clearly. Now let me pull you deeper, because there's a glitch in your brain that marketers, lovers, and manipulators have been exploiting for centuries. It's called the scarcity illusion. When something feels rare, limited, or about to disappear, your brain doesn't just want it more. Your brain stops thinking clearly about it altogether. This is why limited time offer works even when you know it's a marketing trick. This is why you suddenly want someone more the moment they pull away. This is why an unanswered message at 2 in the morning feels more urgent, more meaningful, more loaded than a message that gets an instant reply. Scarcity hijacks your evaluation system. It takes something ordinary and coats it in gold. And the cruel irony is that the things most available to you, the people who stay, the love that's consistent, the opportunities that remain open, your brain discounts them, not because they're less valuable, but because you're wiring mistakes availability for worthlessness. Think about that. You may be ignoring the most meaningful thing in your life right now simply because it isn't threatening to leave. But here's where it gets really interesting. And I need you to stay with me here because this next part changes everything. You think you form your own emotions. You think your anxiety is yours. Your confidence is yours. Your anger is yours. But the truth is far stranger than that. Emotions are contagious, and they spread faster than thoughts. When you walk into a room where someone is anxious, your nervous system doesn't wait for you to assess the situation logically. It mirrors, instantly, unconsciously. Before you've even processed a single word, your body has already begun syncing with the emotional tone of the people around you. One anxious person can make an entire room tense. One calm person can settle a crowd. One angry voice in a meeting can escalate a conflict that had no reason to exist. And none of this happens through logic. It happens through the oldest part of your brain, the part that evolved not to think, but to survive. And this leads to something most people completely miss. The most influential person in any room is not the smartest one. It's not the loudest one. It's not even the one with the best argument. It's the one controlling the emotional tone. Because once the emotional tone is set, everyone else's thinking bends around it. This is why certain leaders rise even when their ideas are average. This is why certain people make you feel safe without saying anything particularly wise. And this is why one toxic person can poison an entire group, not through what they say, but through what they radiate. And this connects to something even darker, something that explains why misinformation spreads, why wrong people rise to power, and why doubt, even justified doubt, can destroy credibility. People don't follow the most accurate person. They follow the most certain one. Your brain interprets uncertainty as danger. When someone hesitates, qualifies, says, "I'm not sure, but," your nervous system reads that as weakness. Not because it is, but because your ancient wiring associates hesitation with threat. If the leader isn't sure, maybe we're not safe. So confidence becomes a shortcut for credibility. Certainty becomes more persuasive than truth. And the person willing to say, "I know exactly what's happening," will almost always be believed over the person saying it's complicated, even when complicated is the honest answer. This is why charismatic leaders rise fast. This is why misinformation doesn't just survive, but thrives. And this is why the most thoughtful people in the room, the ones who see nuance, who weigh evidence, who refuse to oversimplify, often get overlooked, not because they're wrong, but because their honesty sounds like weakness to a brain that craves certainty. Let that sit for a moment. Now let me show you where people reveal who they truly are, because this might be the most useful thing you hear today. There are two states where the mask drops: safety and power. When someone feels completely safe with you, when there's no threat, no audience, no consequences, you see their vulnerability, their real fears, their softness, the version of them that existed before the world told them to harden. But when someone has power over you, when they don't need anything from you, when there's no incentive to perform, you see something else. You see their character. Power doesn't change people. That's the myth. What power does is remove constraints. It strips away the reasons someone had to be polite, patient, or fair. And whatever is left, that's who they always were. Watch how people treat those who can do nothing for them. Watch what happens when someone has authority with no accountability. Watch the small moments: the waiter, the assistant, the person who made a mistake. That's where the truth lives. And underneath all of this, there's one mechanism holding everything together, one invisible thread that runs through framing, status, scarcity, contagion, certainty, and power: attention. Where your attention goes, your emotion follows. Where your emotion goes, your beliefs follow. Where your beliefs go, your behavior follows. This is the chain. And whoever controls the first link controls everything downstream. This is why social media is addictive. Not because the content is good, but because it has mastered the art of capturing attention and directing it, millisecond by millisecond, toward whatever generates the strongest emotional response. This is why repeated ideas start to feel true even when they aren't. This is why you can know something is manipulative and still fall for it, because knowing isn't enough. Attention is what matters, and yours is being auctioned off every second of every day. But here's the final twist, the one that brings all of this together. The most powerful influence in your life is the one you can't see. Obvious manipulation triggers resistance. If someone tries to pressure you openly, you push back. You recognize it. You reject it. But subtle influence doesn't trigger anything. It feels like your own thought, your own preference, your own choice. The strongest forces shaping your behavior aren't commands, they're norms. Everyone does this. They're defaults, the pre-selected option you never bothered to change. They're environments, what's made easy versus what's made hard. You think you're choosing freely, but most of the time, you're choosing from a menu someone else designed. And the most effective manipulation in the world is the kind that feels like your own idea. So here's where we land after all of this. You are not a purely rational being. None of us are. We are emotionally driven, socially regulated, pattern-seeking creatures. And most of our decisions don't come from conscious thought. They come from unconscious processes that we justify afterward. We don't decide and then feel. We feel and then build a story about why we decided. Understanding this gives you two paths. You can use it to manipulate others, or you can use it to see through manipulation. The second path is harder. It's quieter. It doesn't come with power over others, but it comes with something rarer: power over yourself. Because once you see the frames, once you recognize the status games, Once you feel the emotional contagion before it takes hold, once you notice where your attention is being pulled and by whom, something shifts. You stop reacting automatically. You start choosing consciously, not perfectly, not always, but enough. Enough to live a life that's actually yours. And in a world full of invisible games, that might be the most powerful move you'll ever make.